Do you enjoy status effects? How about speedrunning? Perhaps drug addiction? No? Well, too bad, because that's who we're covering today, because I'm Ian, and this is the Streets of Pro character guide to The Investment Banker.
Winners don't use drugs, except steroids, in which case, use lots of drugs.
The Investment Banker is unlocked via having 500 money on your person at any point in-game. Please remember that detail, in-game, not in real life, so don't get any ideas of shoving a few Benjamins in your pocket before booting up the game to unlock this character stupid quick. You need digital gold, not American green for this achievement, baby. As for your backstory, it reads,
Greed is good, so are drugs. This is the motto that the investment banker lives by. Predictably, this has led to significant wealth and crippling drug addiction. Party! 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 It's an extreme lifestyle and gameplay style that's not for everyone.
As for your stats and starting gear, you have a 3 in everything except for endurance, which is an average of 2, meaning whilst your stats are not the best they could possibly be, they are acceptable. As for your starting gear, you start with 300 money, a cigarette lighter, and a bag of white powder that I am legally required to refer to as sugar. All of this will help you deal with your addict trait. Yeah, when I mentioned drug addiction in the intro, that wasn't a joke, it's actually a whole in-game mechanic here. With this trait, you need to constantly find drugs to keep yourself feeling fine, or else withdrawal will kick in and start to drain your HP, similar to the rechargeable batteries of the robot character. Thankfully, just like with the robot character, the life drain issues you have with this trait won't be able to kill you directly. However, when you realize this trait will cause you to lose so much health that you'll be one good hit away from death anyway, that doesn't really mean much. If you're wondering how long you have until you need to take more drugs to avoid this withdrawal downside, there will be a timer labeled feeling fine underneath your health bar at all times. Please bear in mind, however, that the intaking of drugs will simply refill this timer. It has a set cap, and therefore, taking as many drugs as possible in one massive dose will not actually be the most beneficial way of prolonging the withdrawal issues. Realistically, the best way to use your drugs in order to avoid withdrawal is to simply spread out their uses as much as possible, ideally only ingesting them during the last second before the timer goes off. Of course, there are exceptions to this, especially if you're using the drugs for reasons other than avoiding withdrawal, since you can stack the beneficial traits of these drugs to the point of turning you into a near indestructible monster, or even a literally indestructible monster if you get an invincible syringe. There is, however, one form of drug that acts differently in regards to your addict trait. That being cigarettes. Cigarettes operate differently from other drugs in regards to your addict trait because instead of refilling the feeling fine timer, it actually pauses it altogether, making it the only drug that actually benefits from comboing alongside other drugs while you take them. Just bear in mind that you will need a lighter to use these, and you will take 5 HP every time you take it. Thankfully, however, all your other starting traits are designed specifically to help you overcome the issues that come from your addict trait. Starting with Drug-a-Lug, which lets you know what a syringe does before you use it. Pro tip, toilets can be used to remove all status effects, so if you use a poison syringe to reset the timer of your addict trait, you can remove the debuff of poison by simply throwing it back up in a toilet. This is a great way of refilling your feeling fine timer without needing to worry about negative status effects whatsoever. Just bear in mind that when you use the toilet to cleanse yourself of these debuffs, they will also remove any beneficial traits that are affecting you at the time, such as Resurrection Shampoo. Next on the list of starting traits we have to work with here is longer status effects. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It makes so that status effects you have last longer. This is an obvious double-edged sword since, while yes, this does mean the indestructible syringe will last longer, allowing you to stay invincible for a longer period of time, it also means that you're going to be poisoned from a poison syringe for far longer as well. So, remember what I said about the toilets. Another thing you can make use of, however, is your Moocher trait, which allows you to borrow money from pretty much any vendor on the floor, from shopkeepers to barkeeps and the like. Just be sure to repay them at an ATM on the later floors or else they'll send hitmen after you. Normally, I would just advise against using any kind of money-lending tactics in this game altogether, since why should I have to borrow money when I can just kill half the population and steal their stuff and sell it to the local Cellomatic on the next floor instead, but here it can be quite important to keep track of due to your addict trait, since this trait will give you a much more reliable way of solving the issue of not having enough drug money much more quickly than killing everyone on the floor would. Lastly on your list of starting traits is Shrewd Negotiator. It's also very easy to understand. You get a discount on everything. This means as long as you're good at managing your finances in this game and don't just use drugs at every conceivable opportunity, you should be able to avoid having to use your moocher trait if you're careful. But you might want to do that anyway if you want to intentionally cause assassins to come after you for some easy weapons. Sure, it's high risk, high reward, but if you're not okay with that, you're probably not going to play this character in the first place. With the basics now covered, let's move on to your big quest.
I'm so f***ing high right now!
Your big quest is called Sobriety is for Suckers. In this quest, you must avoid going into withdrawal more than once on any given floor. If you reach the mayor's village having gone through less than 20 withdrawals, you'll gain a few bonuses that will be in effect whilst you're not in withdrawal yourself. These consist of the fast killer thrower, medium damage resistance, and accurate bonuses. If you find yourself ending up in a state of withdrawal, it might be best for you to stay in that state for longer than you might be entirely comfortable with, especially if nothing is immediately threatening your life in that particular instance. This is because your big quest only calculates how many times you ended up in a state of withdrawal, not how long you stayed in such a state. This means that ending up in withdrawal on 3 separate occasions for 5 minutes each is going to be weighed much more heavily against your big quest than ending up in withdrawal once for 15 minutes. Because, and I reiterate, this quest only cares about how many times you ended up in withdrawal, not how long you stayed in it. So if you find yourself in a state of withdrawal, the best course of action is not to immediately start popping pills, but rather to simply stockpile them instead for later. I strongly recommend the GPS trait and teleporter happy traits for this character especially, since they are great time savers that make finding drugs way easier since you know where all the drug dealers are, as well as the loadout machine, which can always supply you with sugar. Other than that, the only real advice I have for this character is to rush everything. Time is money, and with this character, you're flat broke. So do things as fast as you can, as soon as you can, because if you stop to think, you'll eventually realize this whole town is in an Ouroboros cycle of corrupt mayors being overthrown by individuals doomed to become equally corrupt leaders, and start to wonder if it would be better just to throw this cursed hat into the abyss and hope something better comes along from the ashes of the world you're dooming. Oh hey, I got an achievement. All in all, I give the Investment Banker a speedrun out of 10. This is a character for those who like to challenge themselves and push this game to its limit. The Investment Banker simply has too many flaws with him for me to recommend him in any serious capacity to new players looking for an easy time. This is a character you pick when you want to challenge yourself, but don't want to try to create objectively bad characters in the custom character creator yet. Well, either that or you're trying to 100% this game and you need to complete this character in order to complete everything. That's all for now though. Like the video if you did, please consider subscribing because I am 31 subs from 4,000, at least at the time of recording this. I've been Ian, you have been you, and this has been the Streets of Rogue character guide to the Investment Banker. And stay tuned, we'll be covering DLC characters going forward, starting with the Goon.